everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today we are going to take a look at my 2024 goals. So I did recently post my 2023 ones. It is currently New Year's Eve. Happy New Year. So I'm getting this one in under the wire. I was invited out today, but the thing about getting older is you become more and more attached to not going out. I might pop around for an hour or something to the other person's house, but right now I'm thinking of just settling in. I might not even make it to midnight to be awake, but there we go. So having reflected on my 2023 achievements, I'm now looking forward on what I'm going to do next. So I did mention before that I'm on the third year of this plan, and I am going to talk about that a little bit more in the presentation of the numbers. But essentially, I'm moving on to sort of mid to longer term goals at the moment because I've taken care of a lot of my shorter term issues, a lot of the paying off of debt or other things I wanted to put my money into. So that should mean that things are looking a little bit steadier from now on. So roughly speaking, and obviously I've got a solid 18, 20 years until potential retirement. So this has the potential to change, okay? But the overarching goals, I suppose, that I'm starting with this year or starting to focus more on this year are looking at retirement and looking at the more practical things such as having a property, because I don't currently own a home because I'm here, and whenever I teach they provide you with housing, so I've never bought one. Now there are a lot of complications attached to that. So for example, if I buy a house in the UK, insuring it while it's empty is very difficult. So it's much more likely at this point that I would purchase somewhere, be a landlord for a while, and then when I was ready to return to the UK, I would either sell the place and get my own, or I would end the tenancy and I would move into it myself. I don't have that all set in my head just yet, but roughly speaking, I would like to save up over the next, let's say 5 or 6 years. I don't think I'll quite do it in 5, but maybe 6. I'd like to purchase a house in cash if possible. I'd like to rent it out just to kind of keep it ticking over. So, and by that I mean have people in there. Obviously I have an emergency fund. I would have things available for maintenance, but I'm not looking to make a profit from renting it out. It would be a case of I wouldn't have a mortgage. The cost of the rent would cover the cost of an agent looking after it for me in terms of, collecting rent and taking care of maintenance and things like that. And anything else left would go towards the extra tax and a maintenance fund. So I don't have any intentions really of making money, but it would be a good placeholder, for want of a better word. It would get me on the property ladder, and it would give me more options when I chose to return to the UK. Now, one thing about buying a property is it's something that's extremely difficult to do with a single income. And those people who watch this channel who are trying to do that will probably know that, especially with interest rates being the way they are and the fact they're changing, and it will probably be a long-term change, even if they do vary slightly. And I am really trying to put towards my retirement, and I am very behind with that. So another thing is I don't want to be paying a mortgage, because the money I'd be paying to a mortgage then doesn't go into compound into a pension. So there's a lot of practicalities there, but one fortunate thing, I suppose, for me is because I'm not tied down to any particular area in the UK, because my family live all over, and I don't work there, so I'm not tied to a workplace or what have you, then I can go to cheaper areas and buy where I can afford, which is an advantage for sure. So with that in mind, let's take a look at my expectations for the year and the aims I have for myself and how they're going to fit into my longer term plans. We can go through those numbers and then comment below. Do you have goals for this year? What are you doing? Do you have any video you'd like me to see? I'd love to hear from you and hear what you are planning. But for now, let's get into the numbers. Welcome to the presentation, everybody. As you can see, another Canva special. I know, be shocked, but I love them.
So as I said a little bit earlier, my year one was paying off my credit card debt and any short-term issues I was dealing with. My year two was really setting myself up for the prevention of any of those problems going forward. So starting to fund my sinking funds, building better habits when it came to using my cards and not leaving balances on it, planning ahead for big expenses, that kind of thing. And now we're going into my medium and long-term goals. So my three major aims for this year are to pay into my pension, pay into my future fund, which is to do with the house that I discussed in the introduction, and just to make sure that my sinking funds stay in a good position. Now, for a couple of these funds, it means increasing them. For a couple of them, it means just keeping them at a steady pace. Oh, my title is a little bit off there. When I saved this from Canva down to PPT, it sometimes moves things a little bit, and I thought I had moved them all, and apparently I didn't. But anyway, so my income is actually going up a little in August of, well, it's technically New Year's Eve, so next year, August of 2024, because we have a point system on our salary scale, and I'm going up by 1 point. So in theory, I'm earning a little bit more money. Now I have just approximately converted everything in this PPT to pounds, because again, talking in one currency is easier, but it does mean that conversion rates make a big difference to what I actually get. And given that I'll only be earning the higher salary for 4 of those months, I've decided to just stick with the salary that I had last year for the whole thing, just because I don't know what the exchange rate will do, and I'd rather underestimate than overestimate, you know? So I'm going to leave my salary at 32,000. My bonus ended up being about 1,200. My flight allowance ended up being about 800. And originally I did have my YouTube estimated at 3,600, which is 300 a month. However, I do already know what I'm getting paid for January, and I am getting paid more because obviously November, December are pretty good earning months, and I'm getting paid for that December, January. So I've upped that very slightly to 4,500, and that gives me a total of 38,500 to work with. Now, as I say, I am underestimating some of these numbers because I'm not sure exactly what I'll make. I have made more than that in the last 2 years, but I just want to be sure. So here's how those funds are going to be allocated. Based on my expenses this year, I need about £10,000 to cover costs throughout the year. This, roughly speaking, is going to be about 8,000 for just living expenses, groceries, that kind of thing. And then I'll have 2,000 to cover my taxes. So on the pie chart right here, we've got the sections that I'm showing you right now, and then we'll have the rest of it not allocated. And as you can see on this pie chart right now, once we take out expenses, that's giving me an expectation of about 74% money towards financial goals this year. I did get to a 73% savings rate last year, as I discussed in my previous video, so that's manageable, and we might even see if we can squeeze out a bit more, but it depends. My next category is emergency. I don't have a huge amount left to go into my emergency fund, but I want to round that up to 10,000 total, which means that I need to put another 3,000 in, which is about 7.8% of my yearly total based on my estimated earnings. After we hit 10,000, I'm just going to leave it there and fingers crossed not use it. So my pension, my aim this year was to put 10,000 in. I ended up putting just over 11,000 in, so that went really well. I'm aiming for 10,000 again because I do have the other savings I want to put away for a house purchase. So I don't want to go less than that, but I'm not going to focus on making it more at the moment. And then we have the future fund. So based on everything else I want to do, the money I comfortably have left is going to be about 11,000. So I'm hoping over the next couple of years to increase that slightly, because every year until we get to the top of the pay scale, my pay will go up a little. So if I'm careful, I might be able to hit 15,000 with this one. But that is a kind of nebulous future thing for this year, with the fact that I'm still paying into emergency and some other things. I would just aim for 11, and if I can do more, then great. And finally, my sinking funds. So I fully funded my sinking funds last year to the point at which I wanted them then, which wasn't that much. I put about 500 or 600 into my medical one because I felt it was important to have that, just in case I needed dental work or something like that, because it's not covered on my insurance. I did spend my gift fund over Christmas, so that's something I need to refill. I need about 300 in there, but I would like to increase a couple of my funds. I did have a home tech fund for eventual technology replacements. My laptop that I'm working on right now is getting a little old. It's fine, it's got some life in it, but it's getting a little old. But because I was mainly focusing on the home aspect of that and maybe wanting some appliances and things, I only put 300 in there. And I think I would like to get that up to 2,000. And then I would like to just increase the medical to 1,000, I believe. I might have to top up a few other things, but that won't be by very much. But those two sinking funds particularly, I would like to increase the limit on those. Limit isn't quite the right word there, but you know what I mean. The goal, I suppose. So I would put 2,500 away for sinking funds. Now, when you add all of that up, that doesn't quite reach my estimated income for this year. You can see there's about 5%, 5.2% not allocated. That's about £2,000. The reason I'm doing that is, one, just for safety, if things don't end up being exactly what I think they are, or if the currency tanks or anything like that, I'd like to have some buffer there. And two, because when I've mentioned sinking funds, I haven't actually included travel in that. I have a travel sinking fund. I've got 1,200 in it right now. That is enough to fund a smaller international trip, like going somewhere like Dubai, something like that. Right now, I'm saying that I probably won't travel for pleasure beyond that next year, just because I'd rather put money towards the house goal. But if I end up changing my mind, it's good to know that I've got that money available and I could potentially put it into the travel fund if I wanted. If not, if it ends up going to an unexpected expense that comes up, then so be it. Or I might end up putting it into one of my other funds. Right now, the priority is the future fund. It might end up going into the pension, depending on how that goes. But it would be one of those two, or probably travel. So I won't allocate it just yet. And we'll see how things go before I decide what to do with that. I would rather have a little bit of buffer in my numbers. And that is everything for the numbers. So let's take you back to myself to finish off the video. Okay, everybody, and there we have it. Those were all my numbers for 2024. I realized that my rate of savings is quite ambitious. I managed about 73% this year. I will say that all of my numbers are very conservative, so there is a chance I can make more. There is a chance I am being overly pessimistic with exchange rates and things like that, but I would rather be conservative in those numbers and be pleasantly surprised than overestimate and not have enough to meet what I want to do. So the aim overall would be to have around 75%. I realize technically the pie chart says 74, but if I've got the 5% unallocated and I don't know the exact amount I'm going to make, but it's probably slightly more, then it's safe enough to say 75. A stretch goal, I suppose, would be 80. But if I don't get there, I won't cry about it. I'll be excited if I do, but I won't cry about it. So that's kind of the range I'm looking at. And I just have to stay focused, keep my fingers crossed that nothing major happens. And I'll just knock a little bit of wood as I say that. And other than that, yeah, just keep on keeping on, because I'm at the point now where what I've got to do isn't complicated, but it does require just grind. It requires me focusing and sacrificing a little and not getting burnt out and just giving up, which is just one of those things. But I do like the fact that I have the house as the goal, because it gives me something a little bit shorter than retirement to look towards. So the next 5-6 years might mean I make less large purchases, but also
would be a really important step for my future. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for your attention, and I will see you next time. I'll see you with my next January budget. I actually redesigned my budget today as well. It's got the same information basically, but it's just a little bit prettier. That's all it really is. So I look forward to showing you that in January, and I will see you then. Thank you. Bye-bye.